Welcome to the SJ Child Show, where a little bit of knowledge can turn fear into understanding. Enjoy the show.
Hi, and thanks for joining the SG Child Show today. We are having a return guest. I'm so excited because we get to, number one, honor how far he's come since the last time we've seen him, heard from him, and also just catch up, which I love to do because Daniel's someone who I admire, my husband thought was just like such an incredible speaker, and really thought that his story was so beautiful in some of the events. So I'm really glad that you got to like impact my own family like that, Daniel. That's pretty neat, to say that, to just say that at all. So thank you so much. And it's good to see you again.
It's nice to see you too.
I'm really happy that we get to catch up like this. And I think that some exciting things have happened and you have some things coming up that I'm excited to talk about. But just for those listeners who are first-time listeners and may not know you, give us an introduction and then we'll fast forward into, wherever we want to go.
I'm Daniel Durany. I'm a public speaker and advocate in the autism field. I speak all over the country. While I'm not doing that, I'm a referee in 3 different sports: volleyball, softball, and basketball. My main passion is softball. That's where I've advanced the furthest. And I am married. I've been married for 9 years, and I have a 4-year-old son.
I love that. Congratulations on that, too. 4 is such an exciting age. Oh, man. And it's going to be holiday season. That's going to be so much fun to be able to share and explore and see all of the curiosity that comes from that time. Oh, I'm sure you're going to have so much fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your journey. When were you diagnosed and how did that information help or, help define what might happen for you coming up later?
Here's what's interesting about it. In September of 2008, I went to go pick up a paycheck on a Friday afternoon. And the boss called me into his office. And when the boss does that, usually something bad is going to happen. There's always that uh-oh feeling. Well, there was that uh-oh feeling. I'd been let go. That was the 5th time in that year span that I had been let go. So I realized something was wrong with me and something wasn't right. Because I was let go, and not only was I let go, I was let go without reason. Texas, where I'm from, is a fire at will state, so they don't have to disclose why you're let go. So I realized I couldn't learn from this situation because it was hard, because I didn't know why I was let go. I needed to get diagnosed and see if I was on the autism spectrum. That's when DARS, now they're known as Texas Workforce Commission, they provided me a clinical psychologist and they got me tested to see if I'm on the spectrum. And I was later diagnosed on the spectrum in November of 2008. So that's my journey with that. And I've learned so much about myself during this journey in the last 15 years with my condition. What makes me tick, what's worked, what hasn't worked. And it's helped me become the best advocate that I could possibly be for me, but also for other people along the way.
I love that. And I can resonate with that in that late diagnosis and that kind of discovery of yourself. When you look back at your childhood, and you're maybe, let's talk about like early childhood, elementary age, what types of challenges or skills do you think that you possibly portrayed that were missed?
I struggled with developing friendships my own age. That was my struggle in elementary school, and I knew I was different when I was 11 years old by the people I was hanging out with. That's when I started seeing something different and odd, and that was my struggle overall. I feel like knowing the research I've done and being around other advocates and listening in, I think the number one toughest struggle for people on the spectrum is developing lasting relationships. If you really think about it, I haven't met one person on the autism spectrum that says, I didn't struggle with developing lasting relationships. Everyone at some capacity and time struggled with it.
And did you have in your family typical siblings or parents that then were like, well, why can't you do this? I'm not sure. I don't understand that. In my case was that that was the case, and I was an only child. So it was like, well, why can't you be like these other girls that hang out in these groups of girls? Why can't you be like that? And it was that was a very confusing judgment to be passed on me. Not understand, not know, or even like, you really put a lot of like hate in yourself. I have to say, like, when you don't understand that the people around you are, different, and you're feeling different. But when it comes down to it, I think it's so much better now. There's such a better presence of how many different, individuals can be autistic without the idea that it has to look like one thing.
Yeah.
What do you
I just know that my parents, especially my mother, was really hard on me socially. I come from a background where my dad is really shy and my mom is private, very, very private with her feelings and stuff. And yeah, I was actually outgoing. So my mother didn't know how to harness that to my advantage. And that was really hard for them. I realized I talked a lot about sports as a kid. And if I knew what I knew today, I teach about branching out and non-branching out socially from their specific topics of interest.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to teach. So they use other subjects besides their favorite topic and use other topics involved with their favorite topic to talk about situations that are to their advantage.
I really like that a lot. I think it's really important that we see people's strengths in their interests. We realize that the more we can allow that curiosity in their interest, and like you said, maybe build kind of strategies around that, and how much better for that person they can have success and find their own like-minded people, right? And that's such a nice thing that, I don't know about you, I feel like wasn't until the last 3 years of my life I've been able to like identify, oh my gosh, okay, this is why I am who I am and how I think like this and why I've been questioned for my thinking my entire life. And it really gave me like this validity. And I found within you and the other people that I connected with this like-minded in so many ways, right? In that same having trouble making relationships. And then people would look at me now and think, that's ridiculous. Like, no way. Like, you do that every day with people. I do. I practice. I practice. I practice. I practice, practice, practice. And that's what we have to do when it doesn't come naturally to us, is that we have to be super practicers. And if it's important to us, right? And we have to make sure that those things, and kind of like you, I mean, I think I was social. My mom was really social, and my dad was social in his circles, but not outside of that. But my husband and my daughter are so shy. And so it's very unique to have those differences and be able to see them and appreciate them for exactly what they are, and that safety that it kind of like, I feel like, brings to me in this balance that I'm probably the loudest person in the room, and but that's okay. It's usually laughter, thank goodness. It's, I want to spend my loudness in ways that are worth and valuable and not worthless. So yeah, that's interesting. Well, and so then what did, you obviously you just are so educated. Tell us about your education journey, after high school, that transition and what that all looked like for you.
So I went to college. I went to a Baptist university my first year of college, and everything went downhill. Just transitioning was poor, and I started going through depression and going through a lot of mental health issues. And I realized I needed to take a step back and go back to a community college and live back at home to see where I stand for myself. So I did that, and then I graduated with my Bachelor of Science degree in Communication Studies of all topics at Texas Christian University. So I got my Bachelor of Science there. Then I went into the work world, and I wanted to go and get a master's immediately, but I couldn't. But I really always wanted to get a master's, because I feel like sometimes a bachelor's really doesn't done much in this world, depending on what your degree is. So I went into the work world. I transitioned, struggled in that as well, and that's when I needed to get help. And I learned a lot about myself in the job world. And then I realized I worked in public school system, and I realized how much red tape there was, and I couldn't advocate in the public school system like I can as a public speaker doing this podcast today with you. So I chose to go back to school in accounting, and I got my accounting degree, and accounting's nice, but then my heart is so into refereeing and speaking and where I'm at. So I got my master's. I did it while working 2 jobs and having a mortgage and having a wife and a son during that whole time. So it shows what I'm capable of with what I've got and the skills that I can possess. I mean, not many people can do that with 2 jobs and a family while working on a master's. So I did that. And then I realized accounting, I struggled in the job world in that. So I've learned along the way different things as an advocate, like how to handle losing jobs, what colleges don't teach you, to get to be where I'm at today.
I love that. And that's a good transition, because you and I kind of talked about what's a good topic for us to discuss today, and kind of we're at a great midpoint. Let's talk about our elephant in the room. Okay, there's not really one, but job security and loss of jobs, losing jobs. Tell us what that was like, and maybe did any of the employers give you any ideas so that you kind of knew what to work on moving forward, or was it just a guessing game and like throwing darts in the dark or something?
I've lost it in so many ways. It's like taking a football team, and they lose games in so many different ways. So it's really hard to pinpoint one thing, but I've been able to pinpoint two things that I've learned with losing jobs. Before I was diagnosed, I would say I was losing jobs socially. I said things out of turn, out of characteristic, and everything. I realized I learned from that and said, I'm going to be reserved. I'm going to keep my conversations work related and chit chat when the opportunity presents itself by doing some small talk. But I've learned now, especially after getting my accounting degree, that these companies are for profit. So they want to see if they can make a buck out of you. They want to see if they could profit with you working for them. And I haven't been able to do well in that aspect. Accounting is much more than just math that people realize. There's a lot of parts to it, like knowing what goes to where and where it goes into certain pieces. And if you're doing bookkeeping, the numbers have to be right. And if anything is skewed off on a bank statement, the whole thing is off in being able to reconcile accounts. So I'm learning that they're looking to profit. So I think if we could gain two things, if I was talking to people on the spectrum, what employers are looking at, they're looking at the social side and they're looking to see if they can profit or if you can bring value to the organization at the same time. So that's what I've learned along the way. I've also learned with these jobs that I've lost that colleges don't teach you how to handle these situations. And there's two other things they don't teach you. They don't teach you how to counteroffer, and they don't teach you how to ask for a raise.
Those are some good programs that you could put into place.
So I've learned a lot about myself along the process, and I've learned that maybe in terms of keeping a job and losing these jobs, I'm better off with multiple ones at the same time and treat it like stocks. And if one stock fails, you still have others to go along with it instead of being disappointed where you find one, lose one, have to start all over again.
Yeah, I love that.
When you're on the spectrum, you have to think outside the box. You have to think differently than the average person.
Well, and I think you do just by default. So I think that's what the people don't understand often is that how can you be thinking like this? It's so strange. But yeah, this is what it looks like. It looks like me coming up with ideas that you haven't heard before. And they might sound outlandish or crazy, but in due time, they make sense. And then society usually catches up eventually. That's what I've found to be the case for my careers throughout my existence. And it's so interesting that you said that because I had told you before that I'm like a serial entrepreneur. And, my mom was a nurse and my dad was in the military. He commanded a base and all, very stable, very like secure kind of things. And they never could understand this wild being that I was that wanted to do 7 different things at once, or, like do just 2 or 3 jobs at a time. And, but I think that it also gave me the opportunity when I look back to see, oh my gosh, thank goodness I, worked as a preschool teacher. What amazing child care experience that gave me for being a great mom someday and having ideas of teaching children. Oh, it's so nice that I worked in real estate so that I could understand the market in times of any time of need when I needed to understand things like that, or I was a massage therapist for a sports team for a while. And now I have that knowledge, to kind of guide me. And I'll tell you what, Daniel, I think you'll appreciate this. It was 2002 when I decided I wanted to go into massage therapy. And my parents were like, oh, do you know what they do? It was like, no. Like, you guys have no idea what is like, no. And it was like literally the beginning of the entire huge blow up that massage therapy became. And, now there's chains of massage therapy places all over the place. And I kind of felt like I oftentimes in my parents' eyes was, pioneered all these ideas of things that they were just like, Sarah, how could you think that? And I was like, no, it's great. It's great. I'm going to like work with these players and it's going to be fantastic. They just thought I was this crazy person, but I made it all happen, So without all of those pieces though, like I would feel so incomplete. Like I feel like I've lived 100 lives as the being that I am. And I wouldn't want it any other way. And now I can understand who I am, the ADHD that I am every day, the autism that I present once in a while. So fascinating.
I'll tell you this. You learn more through this process with these job situations than if you had held a job for 5 to 10 years with the company. I think you learn more skills and talents along the way. Yeah. That's what people don't realize. Oh, he didn't gain any skills. That's wrong. I think you gain more skills and talents along the way than you did if you held a job for 5 to 10 years at a time.
Yeah, agreed. Couldn't agree more. No, I think that it's been so helpful to have so many skills along the way. Kind of in the midst of massage school, I was a paralegal for a while. Those skills helped me be a great writer and write children's books later on. I mean, these like building of skills on top of one another. And I, like go to high school reunion and the person's like, wow, I've worked at this furniture store for 30 years. You're like, oh my gosh, that's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Like, not to be judged, I'm sure that they're happy, but for myself, like I couldn't imagine that. So kudos on us for like building the skill ladder, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, well, let's talk about how relationships obviously, are tricky. I think they're really tricky for youth in general. And, I'm not typical, so I can't say what it's like actually for those, groups of people that are able to have easy flowing relationships with one another. But now as an adult, it's my favorite thing to do in life is make friends and be friends and, make connections with people. It's like a super skill now. So what did you do for yourself to practice? Because you got a wife, so you must have done something right in, being able to manage that. So tell us about kind of that journey and what that looked like.
I think what's helped me, especially with my wife, is being a good listener, letting her say what she needs to say, letting her get her point across, letting her, whether it be to vent if she needs to vent, if just get her point across. I think I've tried to be the best listener that I can possibly be, and to be the best empathetical person as I could possibly be along the way. And that's what's helped a lot with the relationship side of things, especially with my wife. I've learned how to be a professional in my conversation in the work world, whether it be as a referee, working with my partners, or working with coaches or players. I've learned to keep conversations work related. I've learned to build good rapport within the game with those coaches and players and co-officials, to be able to work with them, and that means a lot to me. And I've grown a lot of confidence along the way doing that type of stuff. And they get to know you, and they get to know your tendencies. So it helps a lot when you're doing a good job on the court or on the field, and they know you, they could trust you to do your job, and they can do their thing.
I love that. And you know what? I have to, Harry James O'Kelly, she inspired my brain to inspire you, to tell you should start like a referee, the neurodivergent referee coaching program online, so that people have to come and you give little classes on how to do like things better that you've learned. I mean, just Harry told me to say it, I guess. She mused my brain right here in this moment. So
you pick up a lot of little things from co-officials along the way. Yeah. How to handle a coach, how to handle situations, constructive feedback, being able to give constructive feedback to other co-officials, how to talk to them while listening to what they have to say as well, how to handle egos in that profession as well. Some people are not into feedback, so I don't give feedback. So
that's good. Yeah.
Those are things I've learned that I can help as a neurodivergent referee.
I love that.
To do that. I've had a mentor in every sport that I officiate. That's helped a lot along the way. And being able to have a mentor, I think, is huge. I think for every person on the spectrum, they need to have a mentor in the job world. I have several people that I can go to in the job situation, mentor wise, and how to handle situations. So that's helped a lot along the way.
I love that. Absolutely. Well, what do we have coming up? What do you have in the pipeline? Where can we see you speaking, and what kind of things do you have coming up next?
Tomorrow I've got a speaking gig in Oklahoma, Edmond, Oklahoma. I speak at Edmond, Oklahoma at the Oklahoma Autism Conference. And
That's wonderful.
then in April, I speak at one of the service centers in Texas. I do a virtual, and I'm trying to follow up with other ones along the way. I always feel like I've got a couple that are upcoming, and then there's like another 5 or 6 that are pending, or they want me to follow up with them in a later time, or I catch them too late and they've already got their speakers. So I'm always trying to stay in touch with that aspect, with getting more speaking gigs along the way.
Love that. Well, you always have an open invitation to my events, Daniel, and we just are so happy to have made this connection and relationship with you. So I can't wait till I get to visit Texas one day and just do my SJ Child show tour in Texas and see all the friends I've made. And if I ever have an in-person event here in Utah, hopefully you'll come and visit us here and see how that goes too. I've had a few people say they might be interested in that. So keeping my thinking caps on.
Absolutely.
I love it. It's so great to catch up with you. Is there a place, social media, things like that, email address that you would recommend to people to get in touch with you if they have opportunities, ideas, questions, all the good stuff?
Absolutely. They can follow me on Facebook. They can follow me on Twitter. I'm at DD Sportsology. So DD Sports, OLOGY. Or you can follow me on my email, dsdurany. So Durany is spelled DURANY at yahoo.com.
Trying to see, did I type? Oh, look, my glasses are in my head. Aha! BD Sportsology. Did I spell everything right? It looks right, but you never know till you get a second opinion, maybe.
That's right. That's correct.
Yay. Excellent. Well, please, listeners, if you are interested in reaching out and going and following Daniel, and of course, for those of you who are returning and have got to catch up and find out more, like if you want to reach out to Daniel about his refereeing, I think that you have so much potential and so much exciting things coming up for you. And we are excited to catch up with you again. And thanks so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
Yay. Well, I look forward to staying in touch, and we will be talking to you soon, Daniel.
Talk to you soon.